Imagine being clinically dead. Your heart has stopped, your brain activity has ceased, the doctors have already declared your death. And then, inexplicably, you come back. But you don't come back alone. You return carrying vivid memories of a place beyond life, encounters with beings of light, panoramic reviews of your entire existence, and the absolute certainty that death is not the end. These are near-death experiences, or NDEs phenomena, that challenge our understanding of the boundary between life and what comes after. NDEs are accounts from individuals who were clinically dead or on the verge of death and then returned to life, often bringing with them extraordinary experiences. These narratives frequently include surprisingly consistent elements: the sensation of leaving one's body, a tunnel with a bright light at the end, encounters with deceased loved ones or spiritual beings, and a profound sense of peace that transcends any earthly experience. What makes NDEs particularly intriguing is their universality. People from different cultures, religions, and social backgrounds report remarkably similar experiences. A staunch atheist may describe the same elements as a devout believer. A child with no exposure to spiritual concepts may recount details identical to those of a well-versed theologian. This cross-cultural consistency suggests we are dealing with something that goes beyond mere hallucinations or cultural constructions. Despite the diversity of individual accounts, researchers have identified consistent patterns that repeatedly appear in NDE reports. The first and most common is the out-of-body experience, OBE, where a person reports floating above their body, often observing with remarkable clarity the medical team's resuscitation efforts. Many describe specific details they could not have seen from their physical position, including medical instruments used, exact conversations between staff, and even events occurring in other rooms. The second recurring element is passing through a dark tunnel toward a bright, welcoming light. This light is described not only as visually intense, but as radiating unconditional love and absolute acceptance. Unlike physical light, which can be blinding or uncomfortable, those who encounter it describe a paradoxical quality, penetrating yet comforting, as if the light possesses consciousness and personality. The third pattern is encountering spiritual beings or deceased loved ones. These presences are described as radiant, loving, and often serving as guides or greeters who help the newcomer adjust to this new environment. Some report encounters with religious figures consistent with their faith, Jesus, Mary, angels, while others describe luminous beings with no specific religious identity. The fourth common element is the life review, where the individual experiences a panoramic replay of their entire existence, not only observing past events, but also feeling the emotional impact of their actions on others. This experience is often described as both revelatory and transformative, providing profound insight into the meaning and purpose of life. The scientific community remains divided on how to interpret these phenomena. One school of thought argues that NDEs are the result of specific neurological processes triggered when the brain is under extreme stress or deprived of oxygen. From this perspective, the release of endorphins, changes in carbon dioxide levels, and the activation of certain brain regions could explain the sensations of peace, detachment, and the visions reported. Researchers like Dr. Sam Parnia, who has led extensive studies on consciousness during cardiac arrest, suggest that these experiences may indicate that consciousness continues even after the heart stops and measurable brain activity ceases. His studies documented cases where patients recalled specific events that occurred during periods when they were clinically dead, raising profound questions about the nature of consciousness. On the other hand, skeptics point out that there is still no scientific proof of the reality of near-death experiences. Among the most striking accounts is the recent case of Brianna Lafferty, a 33-year-old American diagnosed with myoclonic dystonia. During a severe crisis, her body collapsed and she was declared clinically dead. Upon returning, Lafferty described a transformative experience, including classic NDE elements such as being in a beautiful city and feeling an indescribable peace. Another remarkable case is that of Pam Reynolds, an American singer who underwent an extremely complex brain surgery requiring her body to be cooled. Her heart stopped and blood drained from her head. During this period of complete clinical death, she reported a detailed out-of-body experience, accurately describing surgical instruments and specific conversations that took place in the operating room, details she could not have known by conventional means. Dr. Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon and former skeptic of NDEs, had his own transformative experience when he contracted bacterial meningitis and fell into a deep coma. For 7 days, while his cerebral cortex was completely inactive, he described an extraordinary journey through different realms of existence, encountering a divine presence and receiving messages about the nature of reality and universal love. The case of Colton Burpo also gained worldwide attention. At just 4 years old, during surgery for a life-threatening appendicitis, he reported visiting heaven. Colton described details about deceased relatives he had never met and events from his parents' lives that he could not have known, sparking intense debate about the authenticity of children's near-death experiences. There is no specific biblical support for near-death experiences. Many point to 2 Corinthians 12:2-5 as evidence, though this interpretation stretches the text considerably. In this passage, Paul describes being caught up to the third heaven and hearing inexpressible words, which it is not lawful for a man to utter. But he does not specify whether this occurred during a near-death state. The biblical account shows that Lazarus truly died and was resurrected by Jesus after 4 days. If Lazarus had been in a state of conscious awareness, it would be natural to expect him to share something about his experience. His silence on the matter is notable and raises questions about the nature of the state between death and resurrection. Different theological traditions interpret NDEs in varied ways. Some see them as genuine glimpses of eternity, confirming the existence of the soul and life after death. Others are more cautious, suggesting they may be spiritual deceptions or simply natural processes of the dying brain, not to be trusted as reliable theological revelations. Life transformations. After NDEs, one of the most consistent and verifiable aspects of near-death experiences is the profound and lasting transformations that often occur in the lives of those who go through them. Research shows that most people who experience NDEs undergo significant changes in their priorities, values, and behaviors. Many report a complete loss of the fear of death, replaced by a serene understanding that death is simply a transition. This absence of anxiety about mortality often frees people to live more fully in the present, appreciating each moment with greater intensity and gratitude. Changes in interpersonal relationships are also commonly reported. Those who have experienced NDEs often describe a dramatic increase in empathy and compassion, a greater valuing of relationships over material achievements, and an intensified desire to serve others. Many abandon careers focused on financial gain to pursue more meaningful vocations in humanitarian service, counseling, or spiritual work. There is also often an expanded openness to spiritual and existential questions. Even those who were previously skeptical or materialistic in their worldview frequently develop an unshakable certainty in the existence of spiritual dimensions of reality. This is not typically a conversion to a specific religion, but rather a general openness to the sacred and the transcendent. Challenges and controversies. Experiencing a near-death experience is no guarantee that a person will seize the opportunity for transformation. Jonah himself, sometime after his extraordinary experience, was displeased when God spared the people of Nineveh. This biblical example illustrates that even extraordinary encounters do not guarantee permanent spiritual transformation or correct responses to existential questions. A significant controversy involves the cultural variability of NDEs. While the core elements are consistent globally, specific details often reflect the experience's cultural and religious background. Hindus may encounter Hindu deities, Muslims may see Islamic prophets, and Christians may see Jesus. Critics argue that this demonstrates NDEs are mental constructs shaped by cultural expectations, rather than objective experiences of a transcendent reality. Another challenge is the lack of a clear scientific mechanism that can fully explain all aspects of NDEs, especially cases where verifiable information was obtained during periods of confirmed clinical death. While some features can be explained by neurological processes, others, particularly accurate observations of events during periods without measurable brain activity, remain puzzling. There are also ethical concerns about how NDEs are presented publicly. Some critics argue that popularizing NDE narratives may create unrealistic expectations about death, potentially discouraging people in crisis from seeking help or even romanticizing suicide. Defenders respond that better understanding NDEs can, on the contrary, increase appreciation for life and promote positive personal transformation. We're reaching the surprising conclusions about this fascinating mystery. But before that, don't forget to check out our full playlist on life after death here on Portal do Desconhecido. We have videos on reincarnation, spiritual communication, and much more. Click on the card now and keep exploring with us. Implications for our understanding of consciousness. Near-death experiences raise profound questions about the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical brain. The traditional materialist view in neuroscience assumes that consciousness is entirely produced by the brain, a kind of software running on neurological hardware. From this perspective, when the brain stops functioning, consciousness should cease completely. However, reports of clear and lucid consciousness during periods of minimal or absent brain activity challenge this model. If consciousness can exist independently of normal brain function, it suggests that the brain may function more as a receiver or transducer of consciousness rather than its producer. This would represent a fundamental paradigm shift in our scientific understanding. Some quantum physicists and philosophers of mind have proposed alternative models where consciousness is considered a fundamental aspect of reality, irreducible to physical processes. Within these frameworks, the brain facilitates the expression of consciousness in the physical world, but does not generate it. NDEs, from this perspective, could represent moments when consciousness operates without the normal constraints of physical embodiment. These questions have implications that reach far beyond academia. If consciousness can exist independently of the body, this strongly suggests the possibility of survival after physical death, one of humanity's most fundamental existential questions. Living in the light of the mystery, near-death experiences remain among the most intriguing and controversial phenomena that challenge both science and religion. They resist simple or reductionist explanations, standing at the threshold between what we can measure and what we can only experience subjectively. For some, NDEs offer comforting evidence that consciousness survives physical death, that there is transcendent purpose and meaning in existence, and that death is not an end, but a transition. For others, they represent fascinating neurological phenomena that reveal the extraordinary capacities of the human brain under extreme conditions, but do not necessarily indicate life after death. Perhaps the most important lesson from near-death experiences is not to definitively solve the mystery of death, but to remind us to live fully while we are alive. Those who return from these experiences consistently emphasize the importance of love, compassion, personal growth, and meaningful connections with others. Whether these are messages from a transcendent reality or profound insights from our own minds in extreme moments, their value remains unchanged. NDEs invite us to maintain humility before the great mysteries of existence, recognizing that there is much we still do not understand about consciousness, life, and death. They challenge us to live with greater intentionality and purpose, knowing that every moment is precious and that our actions carry meaning that may transcend our physical existence. And you, what do you think about near-death experiences? Are they real glimpses of the beyond or fascinating neurological phenomena? Your testimony or opinion may help thousands of people who are also seeking answers. Leave your detailed comment below. If this video expanded your understanding of one of humanity's greatest mysteries, don't forget to subscribe to the Portal of the Unknown and hit the notification bell. Every week we explore new enigmas that challenge the boundaries between science, faith, and the unexplainable. In our next video, we will explore scientifically documented cases of reincarnation that challenge everything we thought we knew about life after death. Don't miss this fascinating journey through the mysteries that science still cannot explain. See you in the next revelation on the Portal of the Unknown.